Well, our guests today are sharing their deeply personal stories about faith, how they found it when they questioned it, or in some cases, leaving it all behind altogether. And that's something my first guest, he knows all too well. He is a multi-Grammy award-winning, platinum-selling artist, amassing huge fame and fortune as one of America's biggest faith-based hip-hop stars. But that's just scratching the surface when it comes to Lecrae, because despite all of his tremendous success, behind closed doors, he was wandering through life, lost, questioning the very religious beliefs on which his entire career was based. Lecrae joins me from his home in Atlanta, Georgia, to have this deeply personal conversation. I have your book in my hand where you, Lecrae, just detail so much. Chapter 6, the title alone shook me. Is this it? How many times at different points have folks asked, is this it? Your book, you unpack a lot. It's called I Am Restored, How I Lost My Religion, But I Found My Faith. What does that title now mean to you?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for the acknowledgement. And religion to me is this idea that we have to follow these rules in order to be accepted by people or accepted by God. And there's all sorts of types of religions. I think we're coached in that. Even as young athletes, we're told if we just follow these rules, we'll be accepted or embraced. But faith, for me, has become this idea that I can believe I'm already valuable. I can believe I'm wonderfully and fearfully made, and that I don't have to earn the love or the respect of others or my creator.
You know, look, I'm looking at all of the hardware behind you that you've earned by using your voice as a testimony. And I think a lot of people would be shocked, and certainly before you revealed the details in your book, how here you are, one of the most well-known faith-based artists, found yourself in a crisis of faith. And you reveal in the book about drug use and just being deeply unhappy. At the center of this turmoil for you were your relationships, particularly with the church. How did that, was there a moment did you feel abandoned? Was there something that shook your faith?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I recall being very vocal about my views on, race, specifically Mike Brown and Trayvon. And I didn't realize that the church has so many different views on this. I thought we were all one big happy family. We all agreed wrong is wrong. And when I spoke out against police brutality and racism, I was met with so much opposition, and it really took me aback. I thought maybe I said something the wrong way. And it was both the silence and the opposition that I received from the church. I just didn't know which way was up and which way was down, and where was God in the midst of it all.
I think it's fascinating that this is tied to an awakening of sorts, if you will, for a lot of young Black and brown people around your age. You talk about Mike Brown, you talk about Black Lives Matter, that there was an awakening of this activist in you, but somehow it was in conflict with some of the things that you were learning or being taught in church. That blows my mind, because to your point, you would assume the Black church, at least the Black church you attended, would be in support of you being an activist and you speaking out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that church is interesting, especially in America, because it's a mixture of, a group of people who love God and then this kind of Western institution. And it's difficult to kind of see through the Western cultural institution in order to see the relationship that people have with God. And obviously, the Black church was on the forefront of a lot of the civil rights era. But, as we know now, things have gotten more multicultural, and Black and brown faces feel a little bit left out and ostracized in some of these multicultural spaces, especially when it pertains to race. And so it just became a pretty strange thing, and you felt this tension. But I was a firm believer that God wanted me to be an advocate of the least of these, of the oppressed. And so I had to push forward in the midst of it all.
And Lecrae, as I said at the beginning of the show, this is not about one religion. This is about a personal journey of faith. And your personal journey with faith collided with this activist in you. You wanted to speak out more politically, even. You write about meeting President Obama, and that became a divisive moment in your life. And all of these different things that it seemed when I read the book, I heard from you what I hear from a lot of people, young people especially. You were farther ahead of the church, and the traditions of the church and the thinking were causing you a crisis of faith.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, oftentimes the church is trying to figure out how to bring, spiritual solutions to individuals without necessarily observing all of the issues going on around us. And I do believe that, there's a spiritual solution for our spiritual problems, but I think that's coupled with tangible physical solutions as well. I think that they work together. So if I'm overweight, I can't just pray the weight away and say, all right, God, deal with it. I got to actually go to the gym and work out. Yeah. And I think that was the conflict I was facing, is that there was this kind of spiritual talk about everything going on, but there wasn't any activism behind it. And that was the struggle I was having.
What does faith mean to you? When someone says to you, what does faith mean to you? How do you define it? Now, given that, as you point out in the book, you lost your religion to find your faith.
Yeah, I think for me, faith is that belief that that even though in the midst of pain, there's a promise that I can hold on to, and that my Creator, my God, is an advocate of me in the midst of everything that I'm seeing.
You mentioned your God. To be clear, as you point out in the book, you're not losing, because that's the thing about the title. It's like, I lost my religion, and people on the surface believe, okay, he doesn't believe in God or a higher being anymore. Right. That is not what you're saying at all.
Right. Yeah, absolutely not. I think we just developed so many cultural ideas of what religion is, and we start believing these things because we made them up. And those are religious things. So my mother grew up kind of in this traditional legalistic world where she couldn't wear pants, she couldn't wear makeup, she couldn't listen to songs that weren't gospel songs. And to me, that's religion. And there's nothing that, in a relationship that would, tell you to suffocate yourself and to suffocate who you're created to be in a dutiful way. It's more about my desires, more about having a desire to have a relationship than just kind of like, oh, let me do these things because otherwise God's going to hate me. Yeah. That's just religion. Faith is believing in a relationship and love.
Your new album, Restoration, highlights the depths to which you have been questioning your faith. Your lyrics from the song Restore Me say it all. It says, faith is starting to crumble. These critics starting to mumble. Oh my God, I feel dead inside. I feel like suicide. I mean, it hurt me to read that because you also tied this into your mental health journey and how it all pulls in together, at least for you.
Yeah, mental health was a big piece of it, especially when your whole world is turned upside down. And when I couldn't cope with the drama, the noise, the critics, all the antics, the pressures of just being in the limelight and concert after concert, tour after tour, trying to be a father, trying to be a husband, didn't grow up with my father, didn't understand what it meant to be a leader. And I just reverted back to kind of the things that I knew before I really, had a relationship with God. And I'm grateful to this day that I got the help that I needed.
Well, we're grateful that you got the help you need and that you continue to use your voice and now your words with this phenomenal book. Lecrae, thank you so much.